Welcome back to the Crisis of Readers. We're your hosts, Allie.
And Mac.
Two of Is This the Making of a Modern Classic?
We're going to talk about Catching Fire and Mockingjay.
It's part 2. I don't know where we left off last time. I'm not going to lie. I forgot to check. Do you know?
I have no idea what we were talking about. I do have one. I was giving this a bit of thought, actually, because I talked last episode about how I thought TikTok edits of coworkers, like specifically I was thinking about the F1 edits, and I was like, how weird would it be if you had shipping edits with your coworkers? And then I thought about it more. And I was like, to be honest, I think that if I was actually in that situation, I might think that was hilarious. It would definitely depend what coworker. But if I saw shipping videos of, like, the two of us, I would think that was so funny.
I think shipping videos of the two of us would be so on par.
Yeah.
I feel like if I was a celebrity in any world, I would be shipped with all of my friends.
That's fair.
I saw a TikTok the other day, and it was like, ask your friends if your life was a book or a rom-com. Who would the people be shipping with by the end of it?
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't think of a person for me.
That's so interesting, actually.
Yours is so easy.
Yeah. Like, being with the same person all the time is a clear.
For me, I was like, am I just gonna be single forever?
No.
I wouldn't care.
That's a good one, though.
The actual one still eludes us to this day, guys.
We'll see where we end up.
I'll keep giving updates.
Love life updates.
Yes, love life updates with Mac. No, not Mac, with Ollie. I got the names confused. If you haven't caught on yet, we use fake names.
Those
in the podcast. These are not our real names.
Crazy.
Whoa, I gotta have you hold up for a second. Man, you are one serious fucking liar.
Today we're going to talk about Catching Fire.
Yeah, which is...
And Mockingjay.
Yeah.
You know, I get Mockingjay's title confused all the time because I always want to call it Mockingbird, which is in fact a real bird, and Mockingjay is in fact not a real bird.
That's fair. My biggest thing is I forgot how much fucking happens in Mockingjay. Let me tell you, I listened to Catching Fire, got to Mockingjay, and I was like, they only just reached District 13, like, during Mockingjay, or I guess right before Mockingjay starts, which feels crazy, honestly, because then so much happens then, but...
Yeah, fun fact, skim read Mockingjay. I didn't actually, like, fully in depth read that one. I lost my interest. Did you know we have a friend? Their name is unimportant.
Okay.
But they were reading Mockingjay and they turned the page and didn't realize 2 of their pages were stuck together and didn't check back, and the pages they skipped was Prim dying.
Oh, that's kind of an important one, to be honest.
The page where Prim dies, they missed.
Oh my
so
God.
They didn't know until they watched the movie.
That's crazy, actually. That's a pretty big thing. I also feel like, I don't know, I'm fairly confident after that point it's definitely mentioned.
I don't know if it is.
Because she's in, like, active grief for a lot of the rest of the book. And she talks a lot about, like, she screams at the cat at some point going back and is like, Prim's not here. She's not coming back.
Maybe she was just like, maybe she's just
stayed
at the Capitol.
She just stays at the Capitol. She's fine.
To be fair, this friend would think that, and I fully believe that. So.
Fair. Okay, but let's start with Catching Fire now, before we skip too much to Mockingjay.
Yeah. All right. So Catching Fire, the best of the 3.
I agree.
Hands down, you can fight me on it. Best of the 3 books.
It's
peak PETA, peak Katniss. My favorite characters introduced, Finnick Odair.
Fair, so fair. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think all of the characters in the second book are just better, honestly. Because Finnick and Katniss and Haymitch and Cinna all actually a little bit more develop into like full characters, especially Haymitch and Cinna. They're actually fully fledged at that point, and you're like, wow, they're so great. We love them.
Oh, Cinna. Yeah, no, this book's great. It's like, we're like, I don't know. The first book, I was like, I think it's a little unrealistic that Snow is like, this is a little unrealistic that this would cause a war.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then you read the second book, and you're like, okay, I can see.
Yeah, maybe.
I can see this a little bit more now.
Yeah, it's a little more filled out. I also like the dystopian. Like, I like finding out more about, like, the full world building, which you get a lot more in the second book, and I enjoyed that. You also kind of, for the first time, really come face to face with Snow in the second book, because you have that scene where he just shows up at her fucking house.
Yeah, I think, like, also you see a lot more of just District 12 in this book, which is nice. The world building is definitely stronger in this book. I feel like the first book was effective in that you're getting thrown into it too, kind of how she's being thrown into it.
Yeah.
But this second book, you get more of a look because she's out of Arena now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially because the first book pretty much starts, she's in District 12 just a little bit, and then but even that little bit, she's only there for the first day of the first book is Reaping Day. So it's pretty much immediately Hunger Games. This one you spend quite a lot of time actually in District 12.
Yeah, I think half of the book is in District 12, if I'm remembering.
Cool. Yeah, it's probably about half the book.
And then there is the next part. Are we doing a non-spoiler section in this one, or are we just hopping right into spoilers?
I feel like we can hop into spoilers.
Spoilers.
But yeah, so the first half, and then you go back into the arena again.
You have the quarter quell.
Yeah, the quarter quells are crazy. What was the first one?
The first they voted who would go into the Hunger Games.
That's insane.
Isn't that's like Survivor but Extreme Edition.
Yeah, because that was the first, and then the second is the
double
the amount of, and then this one is the victors go back in, which I think it's interesting. And I think this like touches upon how much Snow also kind of dug his own hole in this own series. In this series, is because I feel like if he never did that, there would have never been a rebellion.
I do agree. So here's I've seen this take a lot online actually, with people saying that they didn't believe that, or saying that the third quarter quell was always supposed to be just the victors, and that it wasn't a plot by Snow. So what do you think?
Yeah, because I know that they said that they like, I don't know if this was something I missed when reading, or if this is just like I don't know, but didn't they say that it was like there's sealed envelopes and they open one every 25 years and that's just what it is, so they don't actually like choose that year of.
Yeah, that's what like the official story is, but I do feel like,
but I always felt like there was like Snow's hand at work in changing the rules.
That's how I felt about it. I always thought it was pretty clear that he had something to do with it, since it seemed like
I feel like she alludes to it in the book that like he fixed it.
I agree. I don't think I didn't specifically write it down, but I do feel like at some point in the book it's pretty clearly, at least, like alluded to. Especially because the beginning, Snow comes in and is like, you guys really fucked up my world. There's a rebellion starting. Katniss has her incredible line of, it must be very, when she's talking about the Capitol, and she goes, it must be very fragile if a handful of berries can bring it down. And also this is an aside sort of about it. He comes in and she spends like a paragraph just commenting on how unsettling his lips look because they're pumped full of filler, and that's so relatable. Like, I too.
My favorite thing about Katniss in the Capitol is she's constantly like, these people look fake and alien, and I am afraid.
Yeah, she's like, these people do not pass a vibe check. That looks so fucking weird.
Yeah, Katniss is like, I hate it here every time she's in the Capitol, and I think that's hilarious.
I do
It's
think
supposed to be like the height of luxury, and Katniss is like, this is awful, and I'm afraid of all of you.
Exactly. She just is like, all of you capitalistics, oh, this capitalistic city, I hate it, and I don't want to be here. She actually has there's like a few things at the beginning of the book that I love, that are very specifically about beauty standards. So she talks about, first of all, whenever somebody has had plastic surgery in Katniss's vicinity, she is clocking it, and she's talking. She like specifically says, she goes surgically perfected features to describe someone at some point, which I thought was amusing. And then she talks about when her prep team comes to like make her pretty before the victory tour. She's pissed off that she has to get completely body waxed while PETA gets to keep some of his. And she was like, I miss having body hair. I think it's nice. I was happy when it grew back. And I was like, and that's on deconstructing beauty standards. Thank you, Candace Everdeen.
Yeah, Katniss is so funny. I think my favorite part about the Catching Fire, I think, is that it kind of sets up the like the perfect narrative of like, this could just follow like the victory tour and how the victory tour led to further like rebellion and unrest. Like, I fully started that book thinking that the entirety of the book was gonna happen over the victory tour, and just looking at the dichotomy of like higher districts versus like lower districts, and the capital versus districts, and like her really getting like a look and a taste for that in real time in first person. And then that's why I thought there was all that commentary at the beginning, and I was like, I'm loving this, I'm eating it up. And then we were done the victory tour like a fourth of the way in, and I was like, huh,
I know,
where are we going?
What's happening now? There's still so much book left. Yeah. Then you have all the stuff that happens. The love triangle starts getting really hot and heavy this book, which is perhaps the worst part of it.
This is when I truly started to hate PETA and Gale.
Okay.
In terms of being love interest.
That's fair. I know we talked about it a little bit last time, how we thought it was unfair that PETA was mad at Katniss about her lying in the games. I will say, this book, at the beginning, he does apologize for how he acted at the end of the last book. He goes,
yeah,
he's like, you know, you don't have to, because she apologizes. She's like, perhaps I should feel bad, and apologizes, which is nice of her. And he goes, no, you don't have anything to be sorry for. You're keeping us alive. And he was like, I thought now if I stop acting like so hurt by this, maybe we could just be friends. And honestly, I appreciate that.
Oh, the dislike of PETA definitely lasts a lot less time than the dislike of Gale. Like, this is the beginning of Gale's downfall for me, because he can't let it go.
He really can't. He kisses her. And basically he kisses her. He goes, I have to do that once. And she goes, I'm not addressing that. And he keeps seeming like he's waiting for her to bring it up. And she's like, I'm not going to. I'm not interested, and I'm going to keep it right like that.
I just feel like he definitely was like I can appreciate that you were like hurt about seeing it on the TV, but then it becomes like they get back, and Katniss does not make it like a point to make it seem like they're still in love when they're in the districts.
Exactly.
So he could very clearly see that it was some type of like survival ploy, and I'm sure because of how close they are, they've like talked about it too. So for him to be throwing like a massive hissy fit about it still, and being like, like, she can care for someone who she has traumatic life events for and still not be in love with them like that. And I feel like your hissy fit is making her re-examine it more than if she just you were just fine after.
Exactly. No, I agree.
And the thing is, Katniss doesn't dislike Gale. I feel like if he wasn't throwing this hissy fit, there probably was a chance for him.
Yeah.
Like if he let her come to him, it would have been fine.
She very clearly has some, like, they have an emotional connection. It's very obvious throughout the entire series. But this book specifically, he starts laying it on, and I'm like, this girl is deeply traumatized. Is this really the time? At one point, he's like, I love you. And her commentary is, I never see these things coming. 1 minute, you're planning an escape plan, and then someone's confessing their feelings. She's really like, I'm trying to start a rebellion. I don't have time for thinking about kissing. I don't have time for relationships. I don't have time for you. Can you get on board and shut the fuck up?
The Hunger Games, The Catching Fire is also personally one of my favorite books, because Katniss is like dealing with like very teenage things, which is these two boys acting like they can't live without her.
Yeah.
While also struggling with the fact that she's accidentally started like the spark of a rebellion and not wanting to be the face of it.
Yes.
But still having to act a certain way so that she can either quell it, but then every time she like starts to try to quell it, something pisses her off in some way, and she's like, actually, I'm gonna feed flames to this fire by accident. I'm not even gonna realize that this action is gonna feed flames to a fire. The whole second book is Katniss trying to not start a rebellion but accidentally constantly starting a rebellion.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, she spends the entire victory tour being like, no rebellion. I'm not rebelling. No rebellion. I just have to make it through. And then they get to the party, and she is so failed. But she's so dense about this that, like, Plutarch Heavensby comes up, shows her his, like, rebellion pocket watch. And she goes, what a fucking weird fashion trend with that hidden Mockingjay. I don't know why these capital people are like this. Thinks nothing of it. Never thinks about it again. And is so surprised when he shows up in Mockingjay. And I'm like, my girl, he showed you he was a rebel a book ago. You just didn't think about it. And then she gets back.
She was like, I'm just a teenage girl trying to survive every day, and the world is like, you are our savior and our leader. And she's like, Gale told me he loved me 5 seconds ago, and it made me uncomfortable. Peeta and me just got back on speaking terms because he was throwing a hissy fit because he didn't realize that the kisses were fake. And my sister still hasn't gone into the Hunger Games, so I don't know why I'm here.
I don't even know what's going on. I don't like it here. And then she gets back, and then you have the whole scene with Gale getting whipped for hunting, and obviously that's a whole emotional scene. And he gets all fucking annoying with the, I knew you'd kiss me. You only kiss me when I'm upset. Fuck you, Gale. Like,
it's like you built your own house and now you're living in it.
Exactly. And then, but now she's like fired up. She's like, I'm ready to go take down the Capitol. And then she goes over to this is when Haymitch starts being peak. First of all, he like goes and helps stop the whipping when it happens. And then Haymitch, he's just like around and like attempting to be sober, but like not really. Peeta and Katniss keep hiding alcohol away from him, very much giving your drunk uncle. And she decides she's going to start a rebellion. So she decides the person that she needs to go tell about this is Haymitch. She goes over to his house, and he blatantly mocks her when she's like, I actually do want a rebellion. And he goes, well, I want a drink. Let me know how that goes for you.
She's like, maybe I shouldn't start a rebellion. And she's like, maybe not.
Maybe not. It's just so funny.
And then you get the plot twist of all plot twists, which is that they get to go back.
Mm-hmm. They're back in it.
I actually have a bone to pick with Haymitch after this one.
Okay.
Because they find out they're all going back.
Mm-hmm.
Katniss has a meltdown, goes to the woods.
Right.
You know, as one does when they find out they have to go back less than a year, not exactly 1 year later, to get killed again.
Exactly.
Like, threats of life. And this time, she knows they're not going to give her the out of two people can survive. That's just never going to happen.
Yeah.
So she's like, this is overwhelming, right? She thought she was safe. She was told she was safe, and now she has to go back in. She goes to the woods. Peeta goes to Haymitch.
Right.
Haymitch gets drunk off his fucking ass, which, fair enough. We all have our coping skills. But then Katniss comes back, and she's like, I gotta go to Haymitch, and I need to tell him the plan so that Peeta doesn't go back into the games. And Haymitch has the nerve to be like, he was already here, and you're the second one here. First of all, let girl cope how she needs to. I'm sorry she took a little break in the woods. She still came.
I know. The same night.
The same night. And then on top of that, it pisses me off when he was like, you can, like, what was it? Like, you can live 1,000 lifetimes or something and still not deserve that boy.
Yeah.
She does deserve that boy. I'm so sorry. He's he's a little baby angel. But he's not God. He's not the, like, savior worth walking on soil for. Like, he's a boy.
Yeah.
This was when I was like, hey, Mitch, you're so wrong.
Yeah, that's fair. He's just a boy.
He's just a boy.
But yeah, I agree. That was unhinged of Haymitch to say. Especially because she is 100% going back in the games. There is not another female victor from their district. There is no way she's out of it. She's 100% going back in. It 100% makes sense for her to go and have a little cry by herself, okay? I have a little cry when the worst thing happening to me is I have to go write a paper, okay? Like, sometimes I need to emotionally decompress from that.
Yeah. And, like, this set me on a spiral. This is actually one of my biggest qualms with how they treat Katniss sometimes, where they act like she's just, like, so selfish and only cares about herself sometimes. And I'm like, in what instance has any of her actions seemed like that?
Yeah.
Like, they act like Peeta's, like, the perfect little angel baby boy. And he's great. And I love Peeta. Don't get me wrong. But Katniss is, definitively not selfish.
No.
Is she a little rough around the edges and will tell you how it is?
Yeah.
Barely, but yeah. Like, it's not like she's just saying mean things all the time to say mean things. She literally only does it when prompted. And she is, like, not even trying to be a nuisance, but they act like she is the most selfish person on earth.
I know. She has this whole plan in the beginning of this book where she's like, we're going to go out into the woods and I'm bringing everyone. And she's planning it with Haymitch. She's going to bring Haymitch. She's going to bring her mom, her sister, Peeta's family, Gale's entire family. They're gonna caravan through the woods, I guess. And I was like, her best chances would be to leave all of your sorry asses behind and for her to go traipse into the woods by herself. But she, at no point was she like, that's what I'm going to do. She was always going to go back and get the rest of you so that everybody else could hypothetically live a better life. So I agree. They do sometimes.
And, like, they act like the whole first book wasn't her saving Peeta's life.
Exactly.
Like, Peeta didn't do anything in the first book to save Katniss's life.
Yeah.
He was just there for the ride with puppy dog eyes. Like, but yeah, so that was my qualm after the big plot twist of they have to go back in. I was like, why is everyone acting like Katniss's reaction to this is so weird?
Yeah.
It's so normal.
Very normal.
She's 17.
Yeah. One of the things I really enjoy about this series altogether is that they very much feel like teenagers, which I think is kind of fun. Like, obviously they're mature because they're going through things that are insane for a child to be going through, but then they have reactions to stuff and you're like, that is a teenage girl. I can see it. That is how I would have reacted at 17. Like, I think one of the best examples is when Katniss meets Finnick for the first time, and every time she interacts with him at the beginning of this, like, before they're actually in the quarter quell together, and she's like, please stop flirting with me. She's so uncomfortable when he's blatantly flirting, and she's like, I hate it. What is he doing? Why are they making fun of me? I hate it here.
I know that. I also think she's like, why is everyone making fun of me and not realizing that they think she's a threat?
Yeah.
Which is so, like, so I'm just a girl coded.
It is very, I'm just a girl.
She's like, I'm just here, I'm just a girl, and they're, like, messing with her because they're like, you're a threat, you've gotten the highest score ever by a tribute, blah, 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 and she's like, I just live here. Like,
I'm just here I'm trying.
But then, so they get into, they're like, yeah, you got to go back in. They have this whole dramatic scene, which we all saw coming. I feel like, I don't know if you saw this coming, but I saw the scene coming where they were like pulling the boys' names and that Hamish was getting picked and Peeta was going to volunteer, because I was like, they're definitely both going back in together, because there's like no way that she's not doing that.
Yeah.
So we saw that coming. But then they go to the training camp, and that is when I'm like, this is so fun. In the most morbid way ever. This is where I'm like, maybe I would be sucked into the TikToks a little bit in some morbid curiosity.
The training camp bit, I know they did training in the first book. It just did not. It's so inconsequential in the first book. In this book, though, because you're actually meeting all of the victors, it feels so much more consequential. And the whole...
I feel like they also highlight the building of alliances a lot more. So you're learning a lot more about people. Because in the first book, they're like, yeah, you're probably not going to win, so there's no point.
Yeah.
But the second book, they're like, all right, here's how we win. Round 2.
Exactly. And then she's even more unhinged. I like how her and Peeta were both like, fuck the Capitol. We're so fucking mad we're here, when they had their one-on-one sessions in very different ways. He paints this beautiful picture of Rue, and she's like, I'm going to hang a dummy that says Seneca Crane on it and just bow and leave. And I'm like, that is iconic behavior, actually.
I forget what they score for those.
I think she got like the lowest score possible. I don't know what Peeta got.
Oh, they put her the lowest? I thought she still scored pretty high.
I don't think so. I think because she scored that really high the first book, but I think the second book she got literally the lowest score possible, if I remember correctly.
A 12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like, I thought she got pretty high.
I don't know why I was wrong.
Or it's 11? No, they're the 12s in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Her and Peeta get 12s.
Oh, okay.
Which makes sense, because Plutarch wants them to... They want to save them at the end.
That is true.
Because I remember them being like, she keeps doing crazy shit in the trainings and still getting, like, mad high scores. And I kept being like, this is wild. Why are they letting her get away with this?
Yeah. And then you have the interviews. Obviously, the interviews matter a lot in the first book. But again, here, they feel even more, important. Because you have all of the victors come up and they're all doing their own spiel about why they shouldn't go back into the Hunger Games. And then Peeta one-ups himself and is like, oh, I wouldn't mind going in if not for the baby. And I'm like, my dude, he
had me convinced.
I
was
know.
Like, did I miss something?
Yeah. When I read it the first time, I 100% was like, there's a child. She's pregnant? What the hell?
Especially because this is the book where they start sleeping in the same bed.
Yes.
They're like on this tour. So I was like, did we just get like censored out of this? And that this is what is going on?
I was like, were these all fade to black scenes the entire time? I had no idea. No.
And then Peeta got the pro-life movement ripping and roaring.
Rallied. They have no problem. Capitol has no problem with post-birth abortions. However, you kill a baby in utero, they said that is insane. We don't allow that.
But yeah, so Peeta comes in and he's like, yeah, there's a baby in there. And everyone's like, huh? And Katniss is like, am I pregnant?
Yeah, she's even confused. She has to think about it. She's like, he's lying, but that's such a good one. I believe it.
She said, damn.
Maybe
Peeta really pops off.
He does. They put that man in front of a camera,
and he does it in such an innocent way.
He does.
He acts like they're like extracting this information out of him. Like he's reluctant to say it when he's planned it the whole time.
He's been cooking the whole time. It's so good.
And they don't tell anyone that this is fake except for like their team. Everyone in the games thinks it's real.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the victors know it's not real, but they don't say anything. Like, they don't...
Do they, though? Because I feel like they've commented on it. Maybe Finnick
is making fun of her most of the time.
Joanna.
I believe.
Yeah.
I think Finnick... It's kind of implied that Finnick knows, but that he's helping her keep up the ruse / making fun of her. Because he has a bunch of...
He like reminds her at one point, right?
Yeah. She's like, no, I can do it. And he goes, no, you should be resting. for the baby. And she's like, God fucking damn it.
She's like, oh yeah.
Oh my God.
She's like, Peeta, this was such a smart idea, but now I have to figure out how to act pregnant. Oh, isn't there like a scene in it where she like, oh, it's right when they get in and they get to like the cornucopia in the center and they are trying to find Peeta and he's drowning and Finnick's like, let me go save. She's like, I gotta go get him.
Yeah.
And Finnick's like, no, let me. You need to rest.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I can. He's like, no, the baby. And then she's like, oh yeah, should I throw up? She's like, wait, what are you doing? You're pregnant. Get sick.
Get sick. Everyone knows. It's such a classic trope. Someone's randomly throwing up and you're like, that character is pregnant. I can tell.
Most of the world thinks Katniss Everdeen went into the second Hunger Games that she went into pregnant and that there was no baby ever born. So they think she just miscarried.
So people don't know that Peeta's just making that up?
What?
Oh, like in the Hunger Games, like the Hunger Games universe.
Yeah, in the Hunger Games universe, with the exception of the small subset of people close to her, think that she started a rebellion in the Hunger Game in a quarter quell and had a miscarriage.
Yeah, which is wild. It does
she
add.
Says she lost the baby, right?
She does. She at some point they put out like a press announcement that she lost the baby from the stress or something like that. Because they even tell people in District 13 that she lost the baby specifically because they would have been around her when she was supposed to be looking pregnant. So
they just like made up lore.
Yeah, they kept that one real close to the chest, which is probably good.
Adds to the whole. They had a baby. They lost a baby. Peeta was kidnapped, brainwashed, brought back, unbrainwashed. Then they had real kids.
Then they had
more
kids. I know. It's crazy. One of my favorite part of the second book, truly the entire time, is Finnick, which I forgot how much I enjoyed his presence until I re-listened to it, and I went, that man is the best part. Honestly, he's one of the best parts of the last 2 books in total. Every time he says something, it's incredible. He's
so practical.
He is so funny, and he's such a good... He and Katniss play off each other so fucking well. And it's hilarious because they become allies against her will. And she's thinking about how she's going to murder him, like, the entire time. And then he saves Peeta, and she's so mad, specifically because she can't kill him in his sleep anymore. Which is so funny.
She's like, damn it.
And then they have that point.
I also love that they just were like, Peeta and Katniss can't keep secrets. So we're just not going to tell them anything.
They just won't know. Which, in some ways, I understand because Katniss, the acting is sometimes not there. However, Peeta has been demonstrated to be, like, pretty good at lying to the media. That man could have been told.
Wait, if they just told Peeta, we could have avoided Peeta getting kidnapped because they would have separated them and Peeta would have went along with it and knew it was happening.
Exactly. It's such a whole... Because they do that a lot to Peeta. Honestly, I feel bad for Peeta a lot of the time because for some reason he's just left out of schemes a lot. Like, Snow comes to talk to her at the beginning of Catching Fire. She tells Haymitch that they really have to sell the being in love thing. You know who they don't tell? They don't tell Peeta, who has come to this realization that they should not... That he's like, I'm going to back off Katniss. If there was anyone who should have been told, like, they all should have known so that they had some sort of basis for how we need, like, that we need to sell it. And then he gets mad.
Yeah, I feel like they were, like, trying not to drag him in too early, which was, like, fair. But then also, by the time they're going into the games, if they're going to kidnap you out,
he has to know.
You need to tell this man.
Especially because he specifically then says something, too, after they do it for the, victory tour. He's like, you guys have to stop doing this because I can't react if you don't tell me. And he can't because they don't tell him.
Remember, also, this might be in the movie, or the book. I can't remember which one it's in. Mm-hmm. But he's like, you have to tell me these things. I have a family I have to protect too.
Yes,
And I was like, your family can rot in hell and die, actually.
Well, that's like, they literally just kill off his family at the end of this book. They went, Suzanne went, it's too much effort to figure out what to do with that, so they're dead. I've decided they're dead.
I didn't like them, so it's okay.
It's okay. We're gone.
Maybe not the brothers. The brothers were a product of their environment. They didn't really do anything horrible to him. But his mom and his dad,
No, the
when
dad.
I catch them in the streets, what about the dad?
I think the dad is supposed to be nicer.
Yeah, but if you let your wife beat your son, you're not a good dad.
That's
So sorry.
That's really valid. That's fair.
So when I catch them in the streets, it's over. But yeah, so they just really don't tell Peeta anything, and then they're like mad when they're like shocked when he doesn't react the way they need him to.
Exactly. And I'm like, he can act. Just give him the fucking lines, please.
He's decidedly the best actor, after all. He's the reason there was a love story in Hunger Games 1.
Exactly. You know? And she has a good point, honestly, where when in Mockingjay, when she's talking to all of them and she's like, why the fuck did you get me and leave Peeta? And they're like, well, you're going to be the face of you're going to be the face of the revolution. She's like, why did you want me to come act? Like, you had Peeta. Why would you want me when Peeta is right there? And obviously it's not the same because she had more, like, agency in the first games. However, it is a good point that man could manipulate the Capitol to do whatever he fucking wanted, apparently.
The way they would have been, like, a power duo.
Yes.
If it was both of them.
I know.
Suzanne, we have qualms with your characters. Which I think it's always good when your characters are a little flawed, because if everything went perfect, we'd have nothing to talk about, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, I forgot this whole thing. Sorry. I had seen this when I was reading, because I know we had this whole discussion about how did the Hunger Games world come to be. Mm-hmm. It's apparently been at least, like, Panem has existed apparently for literal centuries.
Oh, that's crazy.
She's talking about District 13 specifically and, like, the underground thing that they have. And she's talking about how the capital couldn't have as extensive of underground fortifications. And she goes specifically, they could not hope to replicate 13, which had been the work of centuries. Which I'm like, that's a really fucking long time. The U.S. as of right now is like 200 years old. Okay? Like, that.
So this is like 400 like, this is crazy.
That's crazy. And that's just how long 13 hasn't been around. So, which means that there had to have been a time before Panem emerged. So it's so far in the future. Which I thought was interesting.
Really doesn't help the dichotomy of technology in my brain. Yeah, no, that is wild.
Right?
What we should talk about, though, in book 2 is the arena.
Yeah, let's talk about the arena.
That is the sickest arena idea I've ever heard of. I don't know. Where did she come up with that?
I don't know. It was good, though. It was giving that she's been a television writer. She is writing for the television.
I've written television. Also, the movie, this is not about the book, but this is about the movie, where they change the frame of the camera when you go into the arena and it becomes so much more cinematic.
Yeah, I know. It's so good.
I was like, I am this crazy. The Hunger Games trilogies might be some of the best movies made.
I do think truly they are some of the best book to movie adaptations I've seen. In like a very, like, honestly, almost nothing holds a candle to how it adapted the original.
I would give Harry Potter a pretty good candle because they weren't perfect, obviously, but no book is ever going to be that. No movie is going to be perfect, but the Harry Potters were pretty good to the point where I can't read the books. I've never actually read the Harry Potter books, and I tried to read them after watching the movies, and I was like, they're too similar, and I don't want to read this again.
Yeah, the Harry Potter also. There was like that nice golden time because you had Harry Potter and you had Hunger Games, and those are really the only booked movie adaptations that I truly, truly love.
Twilight.
Okay, that's fair, I guess.
And the best ones, top tier movie adaptation,
Percy
Jackson movies. I'm kidding. I was jokes. They were awful.
Yeah, and then there was just such a string of bad ones because then you had you had Percy Jackson. I don't think you've read Aragon because you don't like dragons, but The Aragon movie is terrible. And like the
Divergents were really bad.
so bad. So was
And then they changed the ending, which I really hated because the Divergent ending was the reason that like I liked the Divergent books by the end of it, because I didn't love the series, but then the way that she ended them, I was like, all right, I can get behind this.
That's some
and then they
balls.
changed the ending in the movie, and I was like, fuck you guys.
yeah. But it's I also found out from listening to, I think it's Mike's coverage. It might have been someone else. I'm so sorry if it was somebody else. But the coverage of the Hunger Games. Apparently there was 2 different directors for the Hunger Games.
Really?
So the first movie was produced by somebody else, and then the second 2 were produced by another guy. And I think you can sort of tell, because the first one is a bit more gritty, and like they do a lot of shaky cam, and it feels more almost like a horror movie / like horror suspense. And then the last 2 are a lot more, I think, cinematic, and which also works with the style of how the story goes. It's just so interesting because it works. They work so well. They're just such good adaptations, legitimately. And the effects are so good in the movies. The costuming is so good in the movies.
Like casting was like near perfect. I fear.
Yeah, casting was great.
I fear they ate with those ones.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they end the second book with the next big plot twist. There's like 3 big plot twists that like the way that she uses plot twists to announce a new act of her book
is crazy.
Like they're like she doesn't have like a part 1, a part 2, a part 3, but the plot twists are like the shifts that you would expect to see.
Yeah. Like the last line of Catching Fire is "There is no District 12." What a fucking sentence to end a book on. Insane. And it sets the tone. Like obviously there was violence in the books and bad things happening, but that really sets the tone of we've shifted to full war. Like we're actually just fully at war. It's not just fucking around in an arena. Like we're wiping out entire cities.
Yeah, it's the ending of that book is just crazy, and you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And because it's like I was confused the whole time, and then I was like, oh shit, they blew up the arena.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The ending of Catching Fire is like kind of horrifying. Actually, both of these endings are kind of horrifying. She like the entire time, because she thinks she's been captured by the Capitol in the end of Catching Fire. So she's waking up just like pleading for everybody to let her die, and it's just so upsetting. And then she wakes up, realizes she's not there, and then they immediately are like, PETA's not here. Also, District 12 is just fucking gone. Your home, gone. Like, most of the people you know, gone. Like, damn. Holy shit.
Whammy after this whole book, Catching Fire, had my jaw on the floor the whole time.
Yes.
Like, I'd pick it up, and then it'd be back down 5 seconds later, and I was like, this is insane. Like, but it never felt unrealistic.
No.
It just felt like you were like, this is what the descent into like war would be like.
Yeah. It did feel truly like a realistic depiction of how this would start in this universe that got created.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the death games and all that stuff are a little unrealistic, but in the sense of like it didn't feel like anything was coming out of left field. I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
They're wildin'.
Exactly. And like there were plot twists, but it wasn't anything that felt so, yeah, it wasn't like out of left field. It was something that could realistically happen within the rules established within the world, which I like. I like it when the plot makes sense.
All right. Should we move to book 3?
Yeah, let's move to book 3.
Yeah, so we end with that major craziness. There's no District 12, and then we start book 3 in District 13. I can't talk about this book too long because I genuinely did not like the book.
This book is a lot.
I think it was like
a lot different.
Yeah, I think I probably gave it like 3 stars. I'm not even gonna lie. Like it dipped pretty hard for me there.
Yeah, I think it's because it is such a... The vibe in District 13 is so aggressively authoritarian, but in a very different way than the Capitol was. And also, Katniss is just so unwell during most of this book. This book has very much what I don't know if this happens to you, maybe it does. When a character is depressed in a certain, like, a very specific sort of hopeless way, in a way that I have, like, done in the past, it, like, gets under my skin, and then you feel it, and then, like, you're reading the whole book, and you're, like, feeling the depression ooze out of the page, you know what I mean? And
yeah, I think that's why it dropped down so hard to, like, a 3 for me, and it wasn't that it was bad writing or anything, like, strong pivot. I think it just made me sad.
yeah, it does.
I just, like, lost all motivation to be in the story, because I was like, this is hurting me.
I am depressed as well. Yeah, the beginning especially is really rough when she's just talking about being trapped underground with no sky and how, like, Peeta's not there, and how much she, like, hates District 13. And you feel this sort of hopelessness because if this is the next best thing, is this really that much better? Especially when they literally, like, you have the part with the prep team when she goes to find them, and she finds them being literally tortured over stealing one slice of bread when they were like, we were hungry and we took one more slice of bread, and they were legitimately tortured about it.
Yeah, that was crazy too. Like, they took that out of the movie, and I was mad they did, because I was like, that was like my first, like, holy this is still not a great place.
Yeah. And you see a little bit that Katniss kind of is getting at the beginning, and then you get it a lot at the end, where when she has to make the decision about whether she's going to kill Snow or kill Coin, and then she decides to kill Coin, is really where you kind of see the culmination of that.
Badass behavior right there.
Yeah, we can get into the ending in a bit, unless we want to do it now. We can.
Yeah. No, I think it picked up for me again when they make it back into the Capitol, and they're doing their little underground stuff.
Yeah,
that's when I really start. I, like, skimmed the main, like, crux of them just being in 13. I really pick up in, like, part 2 after they get Peeta.
That's fair. That is when stuff starts getting... That's when Katniss kind of breaks out of her depression fog, and she's just... Because they get Peeta back, and there's 2 things that happen. Because they get Peeta back, and Joanna enters the book, and both of these things are incredible. Because to be fair, I love Bestie Finnick during the rest of the book. But when Joanna shows up and when Peeta comes back, like, Joanna was exactly what Katniss needed, because Joanna's also fucking furious. And Katniss breaks out of just being depressed and, like, hopeless to become angry. And honestly, that's enough of a change that you start coming... It feels like the book actually, like, picks up in pace and stuff starts happening again.
Yeah, no, definitely. I need Katniss with a spark. Katniss without a spark was too helpless for me. I was like, I can't handle this.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable. I'm upset. And I just want Peeta back. And then he came back, and then he choked her out. And I was like, see, now you drawn me back in. Yeah. Why did he just choke homegirl out?
What the fuck is going on? You know who else they took? They also took out Deli from Mockingjay, who is their, like, family, who is their friend from District 12 who knew Peeta really well, but who is this really sweet girl. And she goes and talks to Peeta a lot because...
Is she the mayor's daughter?
No, the mayor's daughter dies in the bombing of 12.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to put it all together in my head.
Deli is... You know who... Deli's also the girl who... They say that one of the Avoxes looks like in, like, the first book or something like that. But
okay, yeah.
Mostly she's just Peeta's friend from, like, the town section of District 12. But she is, like, she's so cute. She's so sweet. And so she goes and just talks to Peeta and tries to get Tracker Peeta to, like, be less crazy. But it's really quite cute. At one point, Deli is like talking about, she's defending Katniss to Peeta, and Katniss is like, even if she's sugarcoating my fine points, I really appreciate it. I could use some sugarcoating. And I'm like, that is adorable. That's actually really sweet.
Yeah. Also, this is the book Katniss finds out she's in love with Peeta.
Yeah.
Which, how did it take you that long, girly?
It did. It took a while for her to get there. But sometimes we don't know our own feelings, and that's okay.
I'll give her the benefit of she was fighting a war or starting the rumblings of a war, so she had other things on her mind.
She was a little busy.
The boys.
And the boys.
Which, at least she had her priorities straight. She said, I have other things I have to worry about. Like, taking care of my family with my comatose mother.
Yeah. And then, yeah, there's so much. Tracker Peeta is honestly just heartbreaking. Because he's... everything that Katniss has done, and everything you can tell she's insecure about having done, or she feels bad, he takes, and he's twisting the knife in, and it is so upsetting. And you can tell how mad she is about it, but also like how hurt she is about it. And she like talks about it, and at some point she's like, he can actually see me for who I am now, and that's why I hate him. And I'm like, ouch, that damn girl, that hurts a lot.
Yeah, no, Peeta, Tracker Peeta, really, I was like, man, I can't, you're crazy, and it's hurting my soul. I think Mockingjay is just a tragic book. Like, Catching Fire was like all the adrenaline that goes into starting a war, and being in war and like those kind of times, and Mockingjay is like the total opposite in the fact that it's all the like depression and downfalls that comes with being in war, like the destruction of it.
Yeah, it is. Mockingjay is just fully a war book, which some people do or do not like. I think in general, like you have some people who don't like war movies.
I hate war movies.
Yeah, I kind of enjoy one. This is like, did you see Rogue One? I don't know if you're a Star Wars person, really, but
I'm not a Star Wars person. I only like the original prequels.
Okay.
The 3 prequel movies, and that's it.
I like most of them, to be honest, but when Rogue One came out, so many people did not like it, and I ate it up. I thought it was so good, but to be honest, I do like a war movie, which is probably why I also like Mockingjay. Even if Catching Fire is my favorite.
I hate war movies to the point where I didn't even watch Oppenheimer.
Oh, I liked Oppenheimer quite a lot, actually.
I don't want to talk about war.
That's fair.
Which is crazy. I don't want to talk about real war. I don't like I'll read a fantasy war a little bit. It's still not my favorite. It's not my ideal. I don't like them. That's the plot, but I can handle it.
I can do it.
But real war? No, thank you.
That's fair.
And I think that stems from the fact that I don't believe in war. I saw a TikTok, and she was like, men are always like, oh, if we have equal rights, then women have to join the draft. Do you think women should join the draft? And she was like, I think we should not have war at all.
Yeah. That is my favorite. You see that a lot with guys who are like against the Equal Rights Amendment, and then people are like, and it's always, well, you think, well, then women should be drafted. And it's like, my dude, what if nobody was drafted? Wouldn't that be better?
Me and my Uber driver that guy that was like, do you believe women should have equal rights, when I was in the back of his car as a woman? Crazy story. He was like, so you think women should be drafted into the war? And I said, I think no one should be drafted. And he said, oh. I said, yeah, I think we should do away with a draft. I don't think anyone should involuntarily be going to war.
I think we could be done with that. I don't think we need that.
But yeah, so this is like a true war book. I hate it. I think that's why I don't like it so much. I just, war stresses me out.
Mm-hmm.
Hot take.
War stresses you out? That's crazy.
You know, it's one of the most stressful things I can think about.
I wonder why.
I think I'm just sensitive. So, District 13 aside, that's just like a fucked up little world. Mm-hmm. And then when they start like going out and looking at the other districts, that was kind of cool, though. Seeing them gather their allies was, interesting. Mm-hmm. I prefer I will never say this about most things, but I prefer the movie to the Mockingjay book. I can handle the movie. I can't handle the book.
The
And
book?
I think it's because you're in Katniss's mind.
Yeah. The ending of Mockingjay also just like really gets you. It feels like you're being thrown off a cliff in so many fun ways. I was listening to the audiobook of this because that's how when I'm not reading a book for the first time, for anyone who's listening, if I'm reading a book for the first time, I will actually physically read it usually. But if I'm re-listening, like if I'm rereading it for the podcast, I'm probably going to listen to an audiobook so I can multitask a little bit easier. So I'm listening to this in the car, or I have been generally listening to it, but I'm finishing Mockingjay while I'm in the car driving to a work event in Baltimore where I am meeting people for the first time. I am 5 minutes away from the hotel where I'm going to meet a bunch of business professionals for the first time as a subcontractor. And I'm like I'm pulling onto the street that the hotel is on when Finnick falls off the ladder and dies to the pack of mutts. I am fully sobbing in the car. Again, I have to meet people in like 5 minutes. I'm like, oh crap. So I turn off the audiobook. I'm like, I need to pull myself together. How can I ramp up these bad feelings? And so then I put Sabrina Carpenter on, blasting as I'm crying in the car to try to desperately cheer myself up as I'm...
Mac is sobbing it in the background. Please, please, please.
Exactly. I can't. It's just that whole scene too. So I'm driving to Baltimore, and this car ride is just emotional turmoil because you have Boggs dies randomly and gives her the hollow. Then you have the film crew dies, and then you meet Tigress, and then she goes to like sacrifice herself and like help them. And then you have Peeta and Gale having a conversation about like literally about her while she is 2 feet away from them, about how she's just gonna pick the person that she can't survive without. My dudes, you guys are the worst. We can return to that. And then you have that little girl, and then you have Finnick dying. And then you have that random little girl dying, which is the, like, foreshadowing to the fact that, like, 3 pages later, Prim is going to die. It's just terrific. I cannot.
The end is a lot. It's tough.
Yeah. The punches don't stop coming.
Yeah. And then you get through all that. You get through all the punches, and you realize that the Capitol's not even the one that killed Prim.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Fuck that. What the fuck do you mean? And then after that, you're like, Coin is like, let's have another Hunger Games. One more.
Oh my god.
And you're like, what the fuck? Didn't we just read 3 books about how this is like the worst thing?
Yeah.
And then you have to watch Katniss make a big decision and kill Coin. Mm-hmm. And then after that, she has to leave. And that's just, you have whiplash by the end of it.
I know. It's crazy. I think really because the ending really puts it, like, you kind of are getting the vibe the entire book that District 13, and especially Coin specifically, is not all that much better than the Capitol. And then you have the last book where Prim dies and Katniss is just in her depression ghost era again, but like worse. She's literally just roaming around the presidential mansion, hiding in closets, and she's just realizing how entirely pointless like the entire rebellion was. A bunch of people dying. You're basically just trading one autocrat for another. And then she has that conversation where she sees Snow in the rose garden, and he's like, "Hey, I didn't make that bomb that killed your sister." And she's like, "You have to be fucking lying." And he is like, "No, have I ever lied to you?" And she's like, holy fuck, no, he can't be telling the truth. But then she's like thinking about it, and he kind of he keeps going on about how Coin actually was playing them off each other, and she just like doesn't want to hear it, so she leaves. And then as soon as she's out of his presence, she's like, he's fucking right, and I hate him about it. And then there's also the whole thing about how mad she is she even finds Snow in the first place. She thinks that they threw him into some dungeon, but he's actually just being kept at the mansion. And this is so like very relevant for today's political landscape. And so she's so mad that he's being kept in the mansion on basically house arrest. And then she basically is thinking, I bet it's so that Coin can set the precedence that presidents are treated differently even when they're arrested, even if they do treason. And then this hits really hard when you're listening to this for the first time, since one of our ex-presidents is literally a felon, and has said that he could shoot someone in the street without getting arrested. So, like, it was a little crazy. Suzanne Collins, you were on it, apparently. Well, prophet.
I love when people realize that Hunger Games is political commentary.
It is 100% political commentary.
There's like a subset of kids I think read them when they were our age too, but they weren't reading them that in depth, and then they got to their adult age and they had to start interacting with politics, and they were like, wait guys, wait.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's so bad. And then you have this sort of pseudo ending before she kills Coin, where it feels like the book's ending, but it's essentially nothing has changed. You just exchanged one dictator for another, and you feel how fucking hopeless Katniss is, and it's so terrible. And then you have that meeting where they're like, let's have another Hunger Games, which I really think that was like the sign seal on Katniss deciding that she wasn't going to stand with Coin. I think that probably did it. That
was the one time in the whole book series that Katniss thought ahead.
Yeah.
She made her own plan because she was not a planner. I loved her, but she was not planning.
She was not planning.
She was going with the flow. She was being told what to do a lot, and then she was finally like, "Yeah, we should have another Hunger Games." And that was the first time she ever was like, this is my plan.
Yeah, I'm plotting. And then you have Haymitch's I'm with the Mockingjay, and he saw her. He saw her little glint in the eye, and he was like, she's scheming. I'm with it. I'm down to scheme.
Is it called a foil when they're like the same person but like different? What's that called?
Yeah, that is foil.
Because Haymitch and Katniss are very clearly foils of each other.
Yeah. I don't remember if this was in the book or it was in the movie, but Effie Trinket just like surprise comes back for the dead when they decide to execute Snow. She like has not been in the books since literally the Quarter Quell, like going into the Quarter Quell. So it's been a book and a half. And then she just pops up in Katniss's room and is like, hey, it's time to get ready for a big, big day. And Katniss is like, what the fuck happened? What is going on?
That is in the books, because in the movies they make Effie her stylist in the whole book.
You're right, because she's in the propos and stuff. Yeah, so this was just the book.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I was like, that's so wild.
That's so Effie Trinket coded.
Yeah.
She said, I gotta make my girl look good.
She's about to kill the president of national TV. It's time. I gotta make her look nice.
Which is kind of a nod to the fact that, like, even if you destroyed a dictator right away, like, people are gonna have some ingrained things in them, and they really still like kept that a spectacle, right? Like,
yeah,
any normal, like, in a normal society, you would just do that in a room behind a closed door. It would not be on national. You would never televise someone's death on national television.
Yeah,
but they were like, this is the spectacle.
It's got to be televised. Yeah, and then I love how then after that, so that she ends up killing Coin. Snow literally laughs himself to death, which is hilarious. And then they just don't know what to do with Katniss. They're like, what the fuck do we do now? She killed someone, but like, we can't just kill her. So they just ship her off. First of all, I love she has mandated therapy, which is so funny. And they just ship her off to District 12, which is hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, because, like, technically, President Snow isn't anything yet when she kills her.
Oh, Coin?
Yeah, that's what I meant. President
Yeah.
Coin. Because she hadn't claimed the, like, pseudo-president title yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She was just some lady talking.
Exactly. And so then they officially elect that other rebel leader that was from the Nut or whatever.
Yeah, the better one.
Yeah, the better one. The one we liked.
But, yeah, and then you go back to District 12. Like, you return back.
Yeah.
To, which also, we didn't really touch on this, but the the way President Snow is just so dramatic in everything he does, because he bombed all of District 12, but it's just like specifically made sure not to bomb the Victor village.
Yes, he was
so like her house
is still
and
there.
Peeta's house were like still standing because they were like, yeah, they're the reasons that you're being bombed.
Exactly.
Not, like there was no hint about it.
And then he left fucking roses in the house just for extra fucking like drama.
The roses in the house. The roses outside of District 13 after they bombed them.
Yeah.
He said and then like yeah, he's a dramatic man.
He is. He's very much a dramatic man.
And it's just too much sometimes, sir. Coriolanus, that man needs to relax.
He does.
Coriolanus has a Renesmee type of name.
That is a Renesmee type of name. It's, I think, Roman, just like a long Roman name, but it does sound very Renesmee.
Renesmee coded.
Yeah.
But
what are your opinions about the ending of like the very end where she, like the epilogue, I guess, where it's like her and Peeta
where
and
she
the
has kids.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. I think it made sense. I know there's like controversy on like if she would have actually had kids, but I think it nods back to the conversation they have back in the first book where she's like, I'd never have kids unless I thought they were like completely safe.
Yeah.
And the epilogue happens so much later that it kind of hints, without having to go into major detail, that they did solve their problem. Like the government situation figured itself out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
I think also it highlights that was a conversation between her and Gale.
Mm-hmm.
And then Peeta was Peeta was part of the difference.
Yeah, 100%. I do think, I definitely agree about how it points to the fact that she finally felt comfortable enough to like bring kids into the world. And I love the ending. I think it's beautiful, and it made me cry more when I was listening to it. So I spent a lot of the end of that book just sobbing in the car because I listened to a lot of this while driving to and from that work event.
Yeah, so those are the Hunger Games books.
Yeah.
Overall, 5-star series.
100%.
I would not say it's my favorite series ever, but it is up there in the most influential reads of my life.
I would definitely put it as one of the most influential reads of my life. I reread them every once in a while. They're not my favorite books ever, but they did have a very profound impact upon me.
But yeah, definitely most influential read. I think they'll start teaching this in schools. I genuinely think that. I
would be surprised if it didn't get introduced as curriculum, because it's a really good way of there's a lot of, this kind of goes into my gripe sometimes about like school curriculum. They're really focused on reading books not from like the 2000s. Maybe they're over that. I'm not in high school and I don't teach high school, so but I feel like especially when we were in school they were really against reading anything that was recent. But I hope they get over it, because a book like The Hunger Games has a lot of legitimate literary merit, and you can learn a lot of things from reading it.
I have a lot of gripes with what we consider and define as classics in the United States English system. Mainly, I had this argument with someone once. I don't remember if I told you about this argument. About how there's not a lot of diversity representation. Like,
yeah, we've talked about this.
There's like the classics, and then there's like classics by Black people that are not just like generally not taught by schools or anything like that, or people of color, not just Black people. But yeah, so great books, modern classics.
Thanks.
Exciting.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yes, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks for listening. We'll see you. Well, we won't see you. We'll talk to you.
We'll talk at you.
There'll be another. We'll talk at you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of The Crisis of Readers.
If you are enjoying our content, please subscribe.
And we will be here every Wednesday.